Today I'm going to be ranking every song on Drake's new album, Iceman. Drake is, of course, an artist who needs no introduction, so frankly, I'm not going to give him one. All I'm going to say as far as a prelude to this album is that, well, Drake has not really been focused on making quality music for quite a while, and the beef that he had with Kendrick Lamar back in 2024 really seems to have stuck with him. And so much of this album is basically him addressing that beef. And frankly, it's not great. I'm not even going to pretend that I'm excited about it. But, I mean, hey, it could be worse. I feel like Drake has made worse, lazier albums than this. So, yeah, with that said, let's jump into the track list. At number 18 for me is going to be Little Birdie. This one is so low quality that it practically sounds like a demo to me. Like, it sounds still under construction. I'm shocked at just the unprofessionalism of the beat and the production. It's really bad. At number 17 is going to be Too Hard for the Radio. This one is probably the corniest song on the entire album. Drake's vocal performance here is just beyond goofy. It almost sounds to me like he's trying to pull off something like the very out there vocalizations that Kendrick Lamar did on GNX. But, Drake doesn't have anything like the level of charisma or congruence that it would take to pull something like that off. Also, just the title, Too Hard for the Radio, like, I get that it's a reference, but the notion of Drake being too hard for the radio is just objectively an absurd idea. So, yeah, for many reasons, this is one of the worst and goofiest on the album. At number 16 is going to be Don't Worry. This is the definition of mediocre filler. I have nothing to say about it. It's just trash. At number 15 is going to be Bees on the Table with 21 Savage. This one wouldn't be that bad if it wasn't for this god-awful bees on the table refrain that they just insist on repeating throughout the song. That really brings down the quality quite a bit. Now, at this point, we enter the middle of the list, which is basically a barren wasteland of generic filler content with bland beats that I can take or leave, way too many beat switches, and Drake doing a lot of whining about various beefs and taking shots at other rappers. Yeah, it's not great, but that section of the list begins with number 14, which is Make Them Know. This is an insanely, shockingly bland and repetitive closer. Like, I'm stunned that he would actually choose to end the album on a note that is this dull and one note. It's so weird to me. At number 13 is going to be Shebang. This is just more mediocre filler. I have very little to say about it. At number 12 is going to be Plot Twist, and this song is so forgettable and devoid of anything worth talking about for me that I actually forgot to even write anything in my notes about it, and so I actually had to, while I'm recording this video, I went and listened to a bit of the song to, refresh myself on what it was, and I genuinely just couldn't find anything to even talk about. It is extremely bland on every level, just complete mediocrity. But hey, at least it's not as cringy or incompetent as some of those entries lower on the list. At number 11 is going to be Burning Bridges. This one has a piano-heavy intro that I kind of like, but for the most part, it's just kind of atmospheric, typical Drake stuff. At number 10 is going to be Dust. This one starts out with a pretty mediocre auto-tune intro, but it does give way to a relatively decent beat switch around the middle of the song, and from there, you basically get Drake flexing his various globe-trotting successes. It's listenable, but very forgettable. At number 9 is going to be Firm Friends. This one's got Conductor Williams on the beat and Drake delivering some bars about loyalty. I mean, what else is new? At number 8 is going to be Janice, Shut the Fuck Up. This one's got a pretty decent beat with this droning synth in the background, but lyrically, it just finds Drake once again throwing shade at Kendrick and other critics and whatnot, which is basically what he's doing for this entire album, so nothing all that standout or interesting there. At number 7 is going to be Make Them Remember. This is not exactly a song that blows me away by any means, but I think it's definitely one of the more listenable ones here. It's got a relatively decent jazz rap beat, and the bars are fine. Sure, it's a lot of, it's a lot of the same sort of content that he's delivering a lot of these other songs, but I don't know, it's done with a little bit more class here. And now this is the point where we gradually start to emerge from the mid-list filler. And we start that process with number 6, which is going to be Make Them Pay. This is the song on the album that I'm the most torn on, because I think from a musical perspective, it's not bad. It's built around this sample of the song Free by Denise Williams. And lyrically, it's one of the more significant songs here, with some lines that are like, addressing his relationship with J. Cole and whatnot. The problem is that this song also contains some of the absolute corniest, most ridiculous bars on the entire album. I mean, they envy me like Nevada. I rack up a tab in Chanel because I do buy everything like I'm Middle Eastern. Get it? Also, there's the infamous cheese grater line, which is just one of the worst bars on this entire album. So, yeah, it's not great, but on an album that is as packed with filler as this one is, this song at least sort of stands out of the mix, for better and for worse. At number 5 is going to be National Treasures. This is a pretty straightforward banger. It's okay. At number 4 is going to be What Did I Miss? This was, of course, the lead single to the album, and with these sort of triumphant horns and these oversized mid-tempo drums, I gotta say, I kind of enjoy the song. It definitely feels like it's lacking in a certain degree of, like, energy or punch. It's a little bit on the bland side, but nevertheless, I think it's certainly a highlight in the context of this album. At number 3 for me is going to be Ran to Atlanta. This one has a pretty solid synthy beat, and for me, I found the Drake bars to be relatively fun. I liked his flow. It was kind of unpredictable. I found the Future feature to be pretty decent, even though I was not necessarily a huge fan of the Molly Santana feature towards the end. Overall, definitely another highlight. At number 2 is going to be Whisper My Name. This one's got a cold beat with some really nice synth parts. I think the song also has some of the best bars and similes on the album. Definitely one of the more tasteful tracks here. But at number 1 for me is going to be the opener, Make Them Cry. And this is definitely going to be the most talked about song on the album, and for good reason. For starters, just from a musical perspective, I think it's actually pretty solid. It's got some smooth R&B production with a lot of different phases and beat switches, all of which go over very well. Lyrically, Drake covers a lot of ground on this one, and in my opinion, he does actually a pretty good job of doing so. He sort of starts out flexing his successes, talking about them from this sort of family-based angle. Then he moves on to addressing the Kendrick Lamar beef in a way that I found to actually be really tasteful, at least on this song. It's just unfortunate that he didn't leave it here, and he basically continued to whine and bitch about that beef throughout the entire rest of the album, and so it kind of it dulls the impact of what he says in this song. But nevertheless, just this song as a standalone song addressing the beef, I think it goes over pretty well. And then in probably my favorite part of the song, he talks about a friend of his who fell on hard times and had to sell his gold chain, but then basically lied about it and said it got stolen. And that to me is pretty good stuff just from like an emotional standpoint, even if Drake's reaction to that action is self-admittedly very immature. And then from there, he sort of transitions into talking about unhealed traumas and various things that are going on in his life. Apparently, his father has cancer, and he's, like, battling that. And so, there's a lot of vulnerability on display here. And, yeah, I think it's actually pretty well written. There is a notable lack of, like, cringy lines or bars in this one. Overall, it's not like a great song. It's not going in my best of the year playlist, but I definitely think it's the best song on this album, and it's actually not too bad. And yeah, that's what I have to say about this new Iceman album. Not a huge fan of the vast majority of these songs, but that's no surprise to me. And yeah, if you disagree with my list, feel free to let me know in the comments. And with that said, thank you for watching.